guys, welcome to Lair of the Lycan, aka the HQ of metal. Metal music to me is rebellion, expression, brutality, nonconformity, oneness, victory and serenity. And this mini-series will be looking at the best metal albums in the last 10 years. We're pretty much at the end of the decade. Now will be a good time as any to reflect on the era which has legitimately shown just how innovative and unique metal can be. Bands such as Metallica and Megadeth released albums which showed them keeping up with their contemporary counterparts with ease. It was the scene's new blood which kept things truly interesting. We might have slipped out the mainstream further than ever before, but all that means was that subgenres on subgenres were invented, existing ones completely redefined, and future classics unleashed onto the world with freedom and focus. So here goes. Have always had a flair for the melodramatic, following on from the darkly cinematic Broken Crown Halen. The Italian Gothic metalers drew on their love of horror even more on delirium and dragged the listener down into their oppressive, nightmarish landscape. If delirium were a season of American Horror Story, it would be the Asylum. The shift in gear was immediately apparent on the opener, House of Shame. The crystalline voice of Christina Scabia was ice cold and piercing as she pushed her range higher than ever. Meanwhile, Andrea Ferrero's usual rasp had developed into a far deeper, more ferocious snarl, particularly on the outstanding title track, which also featured, perhaps for the first time on a Lacuna Coil record, a generally great guitar solo from the new member and all-rounder Marco Cotti-Zaletti, who gave each song a heavier, fuller sound. The thin, twinkly melodies of yesteryear were nowhere to be found on the creepy Take Me Home. Earlier than everyone was expecting, Architects returned with their first full-length since the tragic death of guitarist Tom Sell in 2016. The visionary talent, Tom was the backbone of Architects' songwriting and a key figure in elevating them to the upper echelons of British metal with their visceral yet poignant anthems of defiance and survival. There were themes that permeated Holy Hell. Tom was much a part of the record, not at least in the mostly devastating Doomsday, which he co-wrote, but for the very real, palpable sense of sorrow and struggle which passed through the album's veins. Architects shed their skin, bared all, and unleashed 2 years worth of grief that had been bottled up inside. It was therapy it was catharsis, exercising demons through 11 tracks steeped in sadness and aggression toward the worst moment of their lives. Drummer Dan Sell said that Holy Hell was about pain, and the lyrics explored this concept in many forms. Lead singer hereafter highlighted the weakness and heartache felt by the band. I am with broken bones and spending my share in the deepest depths of despair, but this fragility showed the band's willingness to continue through strength and unity, knowing that, as the opening track states, death is not defeat. You could hear the anguish in Sam Carr's voice as he sang these words, but also an underlying resilience. Sang the hymn always carried across on a closer wasted hymn, and the emotional force of the previous 40 minutes struck in chest, but in all senses highlighting just how much of Tom was in the album, still in Architects. It wasn't perfect, but it was a victory. Bands resonate so fully with their audience as Machine Head, and perhaps only Iron Maiden can rely on their fans for such unflinching dedication. The same can be said about Slayer. The crucial difference is that these Bay Area's maestros are of a newer generation who enjoy none of the misty-eyed, sometimes forgiving nostalgia of their predecessors. And considering 2007's Blackening was lauded as metal as an album of the decade, the pressure to outdo themselves on this album was assuredly immense. May have not hit the stop spot, but it's healthy placing, which is also a breathtaking metal masterwork that screamed their supremacy as songwriters from the rooftops. With the three-part thrashing canon of I Am Hell, it was clear that this was an album of light and shade, or as it were, a howitzer, fire and napalm. Beast Unknown was a breathtaking exposition of Ross Flynn's and Phil Demon's towering abilities with a 6-string, all supercharged by Revlin's gravel-throated ferocity. So intense you could almost imagine the glee in the studio when it was being tracked. Probably the darkness within that saw Machine Head at their most courageous. Beginning with Lynn Springsteen conjuring mid-tempo balladry, it gave dimensions to all fast rhythm bravado before the epic slab of Pearls Before the Swine and the haunting Who We Are wrapped up the scorching proceedings. It was a mind-blowing testament to the brand of heavy metal that refused to chase its tail but sped boldly into uncharted territory. There's already a huge sense of anticipation surrounding Arch Enemy's first album in 3 years when the departure of Iron vocalist Angela Gossow on the eve of its release sent a seismic shock through the metal world. Angela had become one of the most recognizable faces in metal, spearheading a revolution of female vocalists and also helping to break down boundaries in extreme metal bands in particular. Angela was stepping aside to manage the band and being replaced by Alyssa White Gloves of Canadian metalers Agonist suddenly sent alarm bells ringing among many Arch Enemy's loyal devotees. Inspired anyone who heard War Eternal's title track released just hours after Angela's departure was announced, immediately realised that any worries that were completely unfounded. Alyssa fitted perfectly into her predecessor's substantial shoes with her raspy but clear vocals sounding fresh and vital at the forefront of Michael Amot's trademark riffs and stunning twin lead harmony. The simple melodic refrain of "You Will Know My Name" also showed Amot's ear for mammoth rock at his best, but also the subtle use of the orchestral strings brought an unexpected but welcome grandeur to proceedings. War Eternal marked a new dawn for Arch Enemy, but it also heralded a future that both the band and fans could look forward to. It was an album that stood proudly along previous achievements, but was both familiar and daring, but also importantly heavy as hell. While society is distracted by the current political disarray that's slowly eroding out a personal sense of freedom, it's easy to forget that a century ago the world had just witnessed one of the bloodiest wars in history that saw millions nearly sacrificed and dynasties wiped out. The Great War, even now, remains a harrowing record for slaughter, carnage and destruction that would have the most hardened death metal fan reach for a cup of tea and a sit down and it took a band with unrivaled historical knowledge to tell its story beyond the gore. If you don't know by now, that band was Sabaton. From where you sit, these Swedish power metalers are either an obsessive novelty band who get dorks dancing to songs like D-Day or the greatest history teacher you never had. Such as was these grandiose quality of their output. As we ventured into the 9th album, the question wasn't whether they could make a credible record concept about the history's greatest tales, but it could also give us something new and exciting to latch on, and the answer was yes. It was an unusual rip-roaring, riff-addled march towards victory, coaxing influences from folk and power metal that sounded remarkably upbeat for an account of bloodthirsty mass destruction. Attack of the Dead Men, for always grim storytelling, remains the most joyful song you'll ever hear about chemical weapons, thanks to Sabaton's knack for lancing their power metal stride with disco grooves, while the Red Baron explored on other throwback territories with 70s-inspired hard rock. With the Great War, recorded exactly 100 years after events it honours, Sabaton once more fortified their status as world-class power metalers, not only pursuing their sound to new heights, but also solidifying their depthness to tell stories and capture imaginations. Normally when a band claims that their latest album is the heaviest yet, it is best to take it with a pinch of salt, but with 2016's album, The Holographic Principle, it seemed Epica were right. Epica always had a harder age than their symphonic contemporaries, but their 7th album went in and hammer and tongs. Combining the visceral edge and melodic death metal with the typical bombast, the Holographic Principle but put the guitar at the forefront instead of relying solely on the histrionic impact of the choirs and orchestras. The result was full-pelt metal and maximum symphonic drama. The vinyl conquer was a 1-part melody and 2 parts caffeinated Demon Ball Gear meets Latter Day Nightwish. Beyond the Matrix sounded like something Sabaton would do if they had a bigger budget, and the Cosmic Algorithm was a headbanger's anthem attacking with Chogro and Gojira heavy riffs. In the moment of respite, Once Upon a Nightmare made the most of real deal strings and brass, but overall this album sounded like someone had let off a rocket in the Royal Albert Hall. Let's get the elephant out of the room first. Lots of people argue when this record came out, it didn't really count as metal record. It was, they said, a lovely crafted hard rock album that harked back to times long gone. True, it was arguably more prog rock than death metal, but Pale Communion continued the journey begun on 2001's Blackwater Park. And hey, I'm not here to split hairs, but Opeth will always mean well to us. In terms of songwriting, Pale Communion stood head and shoulders above its predecessors. Musically, the tempo only raised the steam on the driving castle of eternity with its twisting solo from Frederick Axon, although the excellent epic Moon Above, Sun Below and Voice of Trees and Flex serious muscle. But mostly Pale Communion was about stridently excellent vocal show from the leader Michael Ackerfeld, proving once again what a great singer he is, and the masterful implementation of Joachim Salberg's keyboards into the band's sound. These two factors led the way throughout the album's voyage. Faith in Others closed proceedings in a relatively low-key manner, perhaps a move to show that the journey was to carry on twisting and winding away from the band's earlier sound. Maybe not to everyone's ears, but taking the musical path they have over a past quarter of a century or so. Opeth had arrived at a time when they were making profoundly excellent music. Once all albums were made this way, Opeth have never forgotten that. Yes, the new age of prog and age of Opeth have come and with 2016's Sorceress and 2019's In Colder Venenium, it only grew. Mourn their death metal farewell, but more importantly, relish the result of the intelligent, engaging act taking a new stand, captivating stuff. Despite being at the forefront of modern metal since 2005's breakthrough album Ascendancy, Trivium of Offward seemed cursed by the fickle demands of their fan base. Part of the problem was the Florida's Quartet's refusal to repeat themselves, and as a result, each successive album tended to provoke a new set of gripes from certain quarters. While true diehards continued to lap up every riff, the situation largely ended there, however. Much like their 2015 album Silence in the Snow, but more so, Sin and the Sentence was a red-blooded modern heavy metal record, replete with bombastic choruses, virtuoso soloing, and a crushing state-of-the-art production. Matt Heafy's vocals were stronger than ever. The blend of old and new metallic styles were seamless and convincing throughout. And the likes of Soon title track, The Heart from Your Hate, and the 7-minute Manimal Tinge, Reverend Kiss were among the best the band had ever written. This album dropped in 2017, brought with it the mitres of but is it black metal pontificating the internet had ever seen. Turns out it was a moot point, because as we all know, it didn't have to be black metal in order to be relevant. It did indeed. To label it such, it might have been a sunbather as disservice, because the album was in fact a pretty unique proposition, a clear evolution from the bands together, and not successful attempts to weld together black metal and post-rock. It represented a more harmonious blend of influences. The end result was a moving opus that didn't need to be crowbarred into an already established genre to make anyone feel more edgy about whatever they were listening to. It would record the likes of France's Amasaurus and Alcest, and perhaps the Altar of Plagues in its skilled use of traditional extreme heavy metal traits, among other things. It's redirecting of these into an emotional direction. Overwhelmingly cinematic swells record everything from The Cure, Mogwai to Russian Circles. Lyrically too, Sunbather was a deeply personal work, drawing upon some remarkably raw self-assessments and memories of brave approach that only accentuated the moving qualities of this musical rollercoaster. It was superb and a moving collection of tracks, pure and simple.